Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome once again to another Enough Already podcast. My name is Fingers Malloy. My lovely co-host right over there is Tracy L. Connors. Hello, Tracy.
Hello, Fingers.
Well, before we get into what we're going to talk about this week, and we got a jam-packed show between Mueller and the Electoral College and Bernie Bros scamming the system with their own scam packs that we need to start. But our scam pack, of course, will be on the up and up, but we'll just call it scam pack. Right, Tracy?
Yes.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the show and how it's growing and what we're doing with it. Uh, Tracy has, with her crack production staff, continued to put this show on YouTube, and we're videoing it. So not only is this show available via podcast and all the fine places you could find podcasts on iTunes and SoundCloud and Stitcher and Google Play and TuneIn. Am I missing something, Tracy?
I'm sure that you are, but it's easy enough to find us, is the point.
Yes. You could find us there via podcast, but also now we are doing a video version of this show, thanks to Tracy and all the hard work that she's been doing. And you can find it on YouTube and BitChute. And we're really trying to grow our platform, especially on YouTube. We had pretty much ignored YouTube from the beginning. And Tracy thought it would be a good idea for us to actually start putting videos up. We had the channel. Why not do that? So thank you, Tracy, for going through the trouble of learning how to do all this. But so you can catch this show on YouTube, and you can see our smiling faces over there, and of course at BitChute. The other thing I want to acknowledge, Tracy, is we've got our base audience here in the United States, but we're international, Tracy,
I know, it's pretty exciting.
on the World Wide Web. And it's really fun as a podcaster, depending on where you store your podcast, what server you have it on. They provide you with statistics where your listeners are. And every week it amazes me where people are listening to this show. I mean, look, we get Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, Poland, Spain, but places like Kenya, Tracy. We've had when it was really funny not too long ago. It's amazing how some of your older content will draw someone's attention, and maybe someone will post it on a site somewhere, and then all of a sudden you'll get tons of hits. We did a show about Clock Boy.
Oh, yeah.
You remember Clock Boy?
I do.
I believe that was in Texas,
Yes.
and there was a whole lawsuit. He brought a clock to school, and they thought it looked too much like a bomb or something, and then he gets suspended from school, and it was a big brouhaha.
Yes. They called in the cops and the whole
Right.
thing because he made what looked like a mini suitcase bomb by
Right.
taking a digital clock and rebuilding it into a pencil case. And then the police were called and he was held, and this was Islamophobia.
Yes. Well, this happened some time ago. Well, all of a
Yes.
sudden, I noticed in our statistics, for some reason, someone got a hold of that podcast, and we were getting a ton of listeners in the Middle East and Egypt and Pakistan. And it was like,
Bizarre.
yeah, you're like, okay, here we're doing this little show in the States, having a good time doing it. And it's getting traffic in places we would never imagine that it's getting some play. So we want to acknowledge our international listeners as well as the fine folks here in the United States. So please make sure to check that out on YouTube, especially, and why don't you go ahead and subscribe to the channel and all that jazz. So, but we thank you for listening, for watching, and continuing to help grow the Enough Already podcast. Now, I mean, look, the big story of the week is the release of the Mueller report, Tracy. And we were talking about this earlier on the other podcast, one of the many podcasts I do, the one I do with Tony Katz. The timing of this release already lends you to believe that there's nothing in this report that is all that earth-shattering when they do a news dump, not only on late Friday afternoon, well after 5 o'clock, but they pick. I mean, they may as well. The only worst time they could have picked to release this report is Super Bowl Sunday. I mean, really, they release it on a Friday news dump late on Friday on the first weekend of March Madness. And the big news of the day was there will be no more indictments coming from this investigation, Tracy. And it's been a full meltdown on cable news. It's debatable whether this happened or not, but there are clips of Rachel Maddow where Tracy, have you seen the video footage?
I've seen it. I actually tuned in live on a Friday night.
Okay, so paint the picture for us, Tracy. What was your Friday night like? Did you put your feet up, have the popcorn popped, tuning into MSNBC to see the meltdown? What was it like, and what did you see?
Yeah, I can't remember what time I hit you up, at like 8:30 or something like that, because I had been at the gym when this dropped and didn't have any idea. Just going about my merry Friday evening, cooked myself up a nice dinner, sat down and ate it, and then I'm watching something that's not news related. I'm not even watching the regular television, so there's no, breaking news kind of thing coming on. And then I just decided to look at Twitter, and that's when I found out that the Mueller report Mueller handed over his report to Barr. Let's be exact here. This is all that's happened.
Right.
Robert Mueller has given his report to Attorney General Barr. That's all we know. The fact that there are going to be no more indictments. Right. When we're getting that through, I can't remember her first name, but her last name is Jarrett because she's Valerie Jarrett's daughter. And she's the CNN, I believe, correspondent for the DOJ correspondent of theirs. And she came out on television and said, breaking news, we're told there's going to be no more indictments. Which is pretty obvious since now the special counsel is pretty much shut down. Right? We've been hearing for weeks that they're moving out of the offices. A lot of the lawyers that were there have now gone back to the firms where they worked prior to working for the special counsel and all this kind of stuff. So they're basically like 3 people left in this office just sitting around waiting to drop it and having fun every week, torturing the world and getting MSNBC and CNN whipped up for, what has it been, 3 weeks now, we're told? Every week. It's coming this week. It's coming this week. It's coming this week. So then I realized, I've got to watch Maddow at 9 o'clock because she's been the biggest cheerleader of this stuff. She's gone so far into the conspiracy realm with this that it's become laughable and ridiculous. So of all the meltdowns I want to see and all the reactions, hers is the only one I care about.
Is it InfoWars level conspiracy stuff coming from them at that point? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, I think that's actually degrading to InfoWars to compare the two. Well, I mean, come on, we could go back through this. Remember when they hacked the Vermont power grid? Like, that's the height of all of this, when they were claiming that the Russians had hacked into the power grid in Vermont. They were able to control everything. It's
amazing how much control Putin has over not only Russia, but now the United States and pretty much the globe.
Right. So I tuned in to see Maddow, and she's all up in the camera like this. I read later, I guess she was on vacation.
Yeah, she was supposed to be fishing, I guess, in Tennessee.
Of course. So she leads by saying, the Attorney General has now received this from Barr, and here's the letter that Barr then sent to the heads of certain committees in the House and the Senate, announcing that he's received this. And at some point, she said the person that dropped it off was wearing a North Face jacket. Like, this is what we know. And I thought, why do I care about this? Like, this is such an irrelevant piece of information, but look at how inside our sources are that we know what the person was wearing. It was a woman that dropped it off, and she was wearing a North Face coat. We all know what that means.
Was there a Mueller report red carpet that we didn't know about?
I don't know, but that woman certainly wasn't dressed to be on a red carpet, fingers. But then it quickly became, the narrative shift seems to be from watching that and the rest of the coverage that I've watched, because, I delight in watching AM Joy on Saturday and Sunday mornings. Oh, yeah. And the story now is this straw man argument that the whole thing is not going to be released. We're arguing about, it must be released. Barr needs to make this public as soon as possible. It must be released. It must be released. Nobody's saying that it's not going to be. Trump this entire time has said he can't wait for it to come out.
Right.
We all want to see it. They all want to see it. Nobody's in the camp of, no, this should never come out. But yet they'll spend hours. They bring in like 7 or 8 people to talk about how awful it would be if it doesn't come out. And these are the people that told us we couldn't, there was a long period of time where everybody was saying Trump should declassify XYZ. And then you hear the whole left go crazy. We can't do that because it would reveal sources and methods. We have to be very careful about things. We have to protect the ways that these investigations unfold. But now this should be immediately made public. Why does Barr get to sit on it? Why is he going to take a day or two to turn over the high-level conclusions to the Congress? Just let it out. I'm fine with that. I don't care.
I'm really upset with myself because 2 years ago I had an opportunity to invest in a goalpost moving company, and I didn't do it, and now I'm kicking myself. The amount of money I could be making right now. No, it's. What else are they going to talk about, though, Tracy? They cannot. They have to move on to the next conspiracy theory. And the next conspiracy theory is, well, they're going to bury this report. They're going to throw it in the bottom drawer of a desk like they do with all the blue ribbon panel recommendations that they come up with throughout. We're going to have a blue ribbon panel to talk about how we can cut government spending. And then they have a big ceremony with the results, and then nobody sees it. So what else are they going to talk about? They can't talk about, well, you know what? We lied to the American people the last 2 years. Right. Boy, we really screwed up. So they got to move on to the next conspiracy theory, and I'm willing to help out.
Oh.
Well, listen. Between you and me, okay? Between the two of us.
Sure.
Last week, Nancy Pelosi came out and said they're not going to try to impeach the president of the United States. This week, the Mueller investigation concludes no more indictments. Clearly the Russians got to both Nancy Pelosi and Mueller. This is what's happened. Okay. This goes way deeper than we thought it was going to go. There you go. Well, let's start that.
Right. Well, I look forward to seeing that tomorrow on Morning Joy, or AM Joy. Excuse me.
AM Joy.
No, but it's this whole belief that they were so convinced that this was the kill shot. They had Trump. There was no two ways about it. They hang their hat on that silly meeting in Trump Tower that we know was set up by Fusion GPS operatives on behalf of the Clinton campaign. But that never comes up when they discuss it. No. But they're still talking about that today. There's so much evidence in the public record. How could this happen, right? And so we've reached now the second time in the last 2.5 years that the media has convinced half the people that there's going to be this outcome. And in this case, it's that Trump is getting impeached, Trump Jr. is going to be indicted, potentially Jared Kushner is going to be indicted, everybody's going to jail. This is no different than when they convinced everybody that Hillary Clinton was going to win.
Right.
And then this is election night 2.0. And it's just as entertaining. And I laughed just as hard. And then the spinning comes because they can't possibly have been wrong about all of this. So this is natural. When you're totally wrong about something, you go into cognitive dissonance and you start grabbing for straws. But they've banned all the straws fingers. So they have nothing left to grab.
What's amazing to me, how when you watch this all unfold, they are trying to look for ways to get their people in office that are so ridiculous and would take so much work and maneuvering to do rather than trying to win elections. Look what they're trying to do. There has been this ridiculous movement, and it's not necessarily by the most credible people on the left, but it's, listen, if we can get Donald Trump impeached, then we can get Mike Pence impeached, and then Nancy Pelosi will be president of the United States. Or, you know what? The last election didn't go our way. We need to completely eliminate the Electoral College. Oh, and while we're at it, let's try to pack the Supreme Court.
And let's lower the voting age to 16.
And lower the voting age to 16. Oh, or maybe campaign in Wisconsin. Why don't you try to do that with a non-shitty candidate and see what happens? You may win an election.
No, it's much easier to get a constitutional amendment to get rid of the Electoral College or change the voting age than it is to actually go to Wisconsin. No, they're actually going to Wisconsin. That's where the DNC will be in 2020.
But it's complete fantasy. The solutions are coming up with, and they see this as, this was all about impeachment.
Oh yeah.
And now that they're seeing that the impeachment road has now become longer, they were thinking impeachment was right around the corner. You know, this Mueller investigation, Don Jr. was going to get arrested, Kushner was going to get arrested, and they were going to lead Donald Trump out of the White House in handcuffs. This is what was going to happen, and there was going to be impeachment. And, well, if you're going to impeach Trump, you got to impeach Pence, too, because, he's
clearly in on it. He's been part of the cover-up.
Right. And, currently he's hiding in one of those white vans he's driving around, trying to pick up gay people.
Camp vans?
Yeah, take them to the conversion camps. But here's an idea. Channel all that energy. And I hate giving advice to these people.
They won't listen.
No, well, channel all that energy into trying to win Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Wisconsin. You don't even have to win all of them.
No.
But win Pennsylvania and Michigan back, and there's a good possibility that you will win the White House. But no, we've got to eliminate the Electoral College. We have to get 16-year-olds to be able to vote. Which, my God, the mental gymnastics involved in trying to sell the American people on the idea that 16-year-olds should be allowed to vote, but you may as well consider a person who's 28 years old a kid, so they can stay on their parents' health insurance. I mean, good Lord, where's the consistency here? You're 16. You have no business. I don't even like the idea that 16-year-olds are driving.
I agree.
Let alone having the responsibility to go into the voting booth and make a decision that could dramatically affect the course of our nation. It's comical.
I don't even think 18-year-olds should be allowed to vote.
No.
The only reason that I can understand it is because you're eligible to be in the military then. So
right.
You can be drafted, and therefore I think you should get a vote. So maybe it's only military personnel that are 18, between 18 and 21 can vote, and then everybody else you got to be 21 and over. Hell, put it at 25 or 26 when your frontal lobe is finally completely formed. I'm not kidding. I want to have fewer people voting. But no, Fingers, You're right though. They live in a parallel reality to ours. And I keep thinking of, I don't know if you're familiar with the Through the Looking Glass of the Alice in Wonderland world.
No, I'm not.
That's first she goes to Wonderland and then she goes through the Looking Glass, and it's this weird backwards, upside down kind of strange place, and it involves a chess game. Wonderland, it was the Queen of Hearts and like all those card kind of things, and Through the Looking Glass, it's chess. So she runs into the White Queen, who's out of her friggin' mind, and she has this great little line about how they have jam tomorrow, jam yesterday, but never jam today. And I was thinking about that with these guys. It was impeachment tomorrow, impeachment yesterday, but never impeachment today. And just never going to happen. But they were so thoroughly convinced that they've beyond beclowned themselves. And I wanted to share this video that circulated on Twitter. It's got 2.58 million views. This was a fun little song that a bunch of them made up and then videoed themselves singing. And it's called We Wish You a Mueller Christmas.
We wish you a Mueller Christmas. We wish you a Mueller Christmas. We wish you a Mueller Christmas and impeachment next year.
We wish you a Mueller Christmas. We wish you a Mueller Christmas. We wish you a Mueller Christmas and impeachment next year.
Indictments will come to you and your kin. Indictments for Christmas and impeachment next year.
All right, that's all I can take of it, but my God.
Can you imagine? Look, I was not a fan of Barack Obama's or Bill Clinton's, and really not George Bush's either. But can you imagine being so emotionally invested in who's in the White House that it almost takes over every waking moment of your day? And that's the way it feels like some of these people are wired, is they are just obsessed with their hatred of President Trump, that they will do any mental gymnastics to get them into a frame of mind to think that, next week he could be gone. We as if the impeachment process would only take like a week. It's amazing to me how emotionally invested these people are in this. If Hillary Clinton would have won the presidency, I would have gone on with my life. And you bitch about, things you don't agree with, but you go on with your life. They're obsessed. Oh, by the way, on a side note, I did my taxes this week. Donald Trump, you magnificent bastard. That's all I have to say about that.
Oh, so you mean it was actually beneficial to you, and I should disregard all the garbage I'm reading in the press about all these people that they're not getting the refunds they thought they were going to get now, so they're furious because they cannot understand that over the course of the year they actually got to take home more money?
Not only did I take home more money during the week, I got a bigger refund.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
I'm very happy with my not Hillary vote in 2016. And but if Hillary would have won, I would have dealt with it. And I wouldn't be getting on the internet coming up with lame songs. I would just be doing other lame things on the internet.
And we only played a fraction of that. It goes on. It's like 2 minutes long with a whole bunch of other people chiming in on it. And they were so proud of themselves. And it had almost, closing in on 3 million views. It's probably gotten 500,000 in the last 24 hours, though, because everybody's passing it around and laughing in their faces. It's scary that we can have these two totally diametrically opposed views of reality. I don't know how you ever bring that back together.
And there's a sense that leftists don't even want to, we're going through this whole process of, well, let's get the president impeached, and then we'll get the vice president impeached, and then we'll eliminate the Electoral College, rather than having to deal with going to red states and trying to make them blue.
Well, and all the while screaming that Trump is the biggest threat to democracy.
Yeah, and everyone who voted for Trump is a bigot. I mean, it just shows how little they think of people in flyover country. It's not even worth our time to try to convince these people because they're too stupid to be convinced anyway. I just am shocked. I shouldn't be, because this is a pattern. Whenever a Democrat loses a close race, it's stolen from them. Rather than sitting back and say, well, you know what, maybe it wasn't stolen from us. Maybe we just had a really shitty candidate. Or maybe we had a crappy message. Maybe we had a shitty campaign. Maybe we had shitty strategy. Maybe it was us. No, it's never that. It's either the people were too stupid to not understand the brilliance of a candidate like Walter Mondale, or he got blown out. But people should have understood his brilliance, and he shouldn't have been blown out. And he got completely destroyed by an idiot by the name of Ronald Reagan. This is how these people think. Reagan was dumb. He was, going senile. It couldn't have been, the voters were dumb there. Then it's when if it's a close race like Al Gore, George W. Bush, or now this Trump Clinton thing, well, it was stolen. It's always someone else's fault. It's either the voters are stupid or the election was stolen. Why not assess your crappy candidate or your crappy message? Maybe that was the problem. I mean, honestly, if Hillary doesn't ignore Michigan and Wisconsin, she's probably president of the United States.
Potentially, yeah. Well, and if the entire media hadn't told everybody for a year and a half that she was a shoo-in, I mean, how much of the vote, their own vote, did they discourage because of that? How many people just said, why bother? She's got it in the bag.
Right.
There's no urgency here.
And
you know, everybody loves an underdog. And I actually
Right.
think Trump's going to go into 2020 as an underdog after all of this. He's got a really good case to make. Just say for 2.5 years, well, 2 years, it's just a little bit over 2 years now, that he's battled this whole Russia collusion thing. And it's slowed down his presidency, and it's all the media wants to talk about and push, and it just undermines his authority and his power and all those kind of things, and makes him seem illegitimate in the eyes of those who want to believe such things on the world stage. So he's become an underdog, even though he's sitting in the Oval Office. It's true.
You're right. And what we're going to see moving forward is you're already seeing House Democrats saying that the investigations are just beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what they want to do. You've heard Democrats like Elizabeth Warren and Maxine Waters say this is the most corrupt president in American history. And I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for something. Look, it's not exactly a well-oiled machine at times at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, but all these accusations that have been thrown towards Trump in Trump's direction, I'm still waiting for the arrests. Where's the collusion? There were 36 indictments with this investigation, but as far as I can tell, other than the Russians that were indicted, who will never
see a moment in court in the States, right?
I'm not seeing anything regarding the Trump administration when it comes to or the Trump campaign when it comes to collusion with Russia to influence the 2016 election. I haven't seen anything. So where's the corruption?
Well, the fact that we're even talking about collusion just shows you the power of the media narrative. Collusion is not a crime. And maybe some of them will start saying that on television now. They'll be like, well, we never believed collusion was never going to be a thing anyway. But we know, I mean, AM Joy this morning, we know for a fact that Russia had some influence over the last election. Do we? Do we know? We know they bought some Facebook ads and they had some trolly accounts on Twitter that had a decent sized reach. But how many people's votes were influenced by this? And they still insist on using that phrase, hacking the election, which makes people think that they hacked into voting machines, which is just simply not true.
Well, the Russians, the foreign governments have been trying to influence our elections for years. You go back to, it doesn't take much digging if you get on the Google machine to see that China, there was illegal campaign contributions from the Chinese government going straight to the 1996 re-election campaign of Bill Clinton.
Well, they just busted the Bushies for doing it in 2016 from the Chinese. That story came and went in half a second. I don't even know. Did you even see that story?
No, of course not.
Yeah. Neil Bush, the other brother. Well, one of the other brothers. Who knows how many Bushes there are.
You can't keep track.
No.
Baker's dozen.
It's impossible. Yeah. Funneling money from Chinese nationals into the Right to Rise PAC, I believe it was.
That's totally okay because it wasn't Trump.
Absolutely. Exactly.
I don't know. It's bizarre to me. And you know, it's not like, and I'm not saying it's okay. I want to know if there are foreign governments trying to influence our election. I think we should investigate it, and I think we should try to stop it, obviously.
But how do you stop it? Honestly.
I don't know how you stop it. How are you going to stop foreign governments from figuring out ways to buy Facebook ads in the United States to try to influence elections? But even then, what was the number? It was an insignificant.
So minuscule, yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about a $1 billion election, $2 billion election, and you're talking what was like $10 million or something, it was like, if that.
Yeah. It was a
I don't
fraction
think it was that much
of their whole spend, because the whole operation is set up to troll all over the world for things. But you can't stop Americans from reading Russian news outlets. I mean, you could.
Oh, they do their best. I mean, you've got Russia Today.
Yeah, they pulled it off of Comcast cable.
Yeah.
I can't watch it anymore through my cable that I pay for, which was one of the reasons that I was like, oh, I want this package because it's got RT and there's another one called like France 24 or something. And I like watching international news because you get different stories. They're not obsessed day in and day out about the Mueller report.
Well, we got friends at Russia Today.
Yeah.
And from what I have not watched Russia Today because I don't have Russia Today on my internet TV service, but I'm sure I could probably find it online without paying for it if I wanted to. But from what I understand, there are a lot of libertarians at work, at Russia Today.
They've got the furthest on the spectrum, I think, of acceptable opinions. It's not like far. They don't have Antifa hosts and like neo-Nazi hosts. They've got some anarcho-capitalists that come on as guests and stuff like this. And then you've got, I'm a commie. I'm a socialist, just flat out. So you've got those two extremes on that network. You don't see that anywhere else. And it's not this screaming over each other for 3 minutes to talk about a subject. It's a full half hour. So it's interesting. And God forbid that somebody else that maybe doesn't push the accepted narrative of the DC class would air content. But you cannot stop foreign influence. It's impossible. And to think that you can discourage them from trying to influence is also absurd. They have a stake in the outcome of any American election. It's going to change how they do business with us. So it's not surprising that they might have a person they would rather deal with on one side or the other.
Well,
and apparently wanted to deal with Hillary Clinton.
Right. And apparently they got a hell of a return on investment.
Yeah.
With the little they poured into the election, look at all the press they've gotten out of it at the very least, and the propaganda to believe that Russia is so powerful that just by buying some Facebook ads, they were able to completely turn the 2016 American election on its head. It's amazing how this has all unfolded. And were you going to play that Tucker video?
Oh, I can if you would like.
It's up to you. I mean, unless you feel like it's time to move on to something else. It's going to be interesting to see how this moves forward because, like you said, the spin now is that the whole report needs to be released.
Yes.
And I think we all agree that it needs to be released because the nightmare scenario, if you forget if you're just a Trump supporter, just if you want to see the country move on from this story, the nightmare scenario would have been it was released to Congress and then it got leaked, selectively edited and leaked to the media. And then, of course, then the narrative is already set. Whatever leaked, edited version of this report that gets to the mainstream media, they will spin the narrative, and then all of a sudden you'll have people running around like they do saying that President Trump said that there were good Nazis in Charlottesville. So that was the nightmare scenario. So I think, if you're someone who just wants to see the country move on, or if you are a Trump supporter, you want to see this whole report released, just so there can't be. They'll try their best, but at least everyone will be able to point to the report and say, well, you're saying that it says this, but it clearly doesn't, because here's the whole report that is available to all the American people. But moving forward, what is the spin going to be? Will it be, well, that was Mueller investigation was just the beginning. Now we have to move to congressional investigations. Mm-hmm. That will probably be the narrative moving forward. But before we get to that, we need to have people like Tucker and others calling out the media, saying you basically lied for the last 2 years.
Yeah. So here's Tucker doing just that.
has arrived with no further indictments, according to a senior DOJ official. That is it. No one else will be indicted in this investigation for collusion or anything else. So to repeat, after all of this, years of it, not a single American citizen has been charged with anything related to Russian collusion. Not one person. Not Michael Flynn, not Roger Stone, not George Papadopoulos, not Paul Manafort, not Carter Page, not Donald Trump. Many of these people have had their lives ruined by the Mueller investigation. Some could die in prison. Not one of them colluded with Russia. The people on TV have been lying to you. They'll deny it now. They'll tell you this was always about Trump's taxes or some foreign real estate deal or hush money he paid to a girlfriend. That's a crock. This investigation was always, from day one, about collusion with Russia, about betraying this country. They told us that for years, and we have the tape.
What makes you believe that he has more indictments?
Because he hasn't addressed the issues related to criminal conspiracy as well as any individuals.
Criminal conspiracy involving the Russian influence?
Russians, yes, yeah. I think it was very,
and
in
that's
terms of
an area,
American person, U.S. persons.
That's an area you know something about. That investigation was developing while you were still on the job.
And just for anybody who's listening and not watching, this is Lawrence O'Donnell interviewing John Brennan about this. And shocking, I just noticed John Brennan appears to be very tiny. He does. Look at, it's just bizarre. I'm like, oh, wow, he's really small. Like, he's sitting on a phone book.
It looks like somebody threw him in a dryer.
Exactly. It looks like Robert Reich's long-lost twin brother. They stand on each other's shoulders and go into a bar wearing a trench coat.
Anyway. Well, it was in terms of looking at what was going on with the Russians and whether or not U.S. persons were actively collaborating, colluding, cooperating, and involved in a conspiracy with them or not. But also if there's going to be any member of the Trump family. Did you see enough
at that stage to believe that there would now that would result in indictments once investigated?
I thought at the time that there was going to be individuals who were going to have issues with the Department of Justice.
So that was the former CIA director, one of countless retired intel officials you see parading across your screen every night, all of them paid by MSNBC or CNN to toe the party line. All of them know better. They're lying. It's a habit many of them picked up years ago. Members of Congress did the same. To pick one among 1,000 examples, here's Tennessee's Steve Cohen telling us that most of the Trump family is bound for prison.
Well, I think they're getting closer to knowing that the truth's going to come out, that there was activities with the Trump campaign in Russia and releasing those hacks and guiding them to the states and the localities where they came from. Some of that was Jared Kushner's responsibilities. Some of it was Donald Jr. I think you're going to probably see indictments of both of those people.
That man is a sitting member of Congress. He's wearing a necktie. He's on television. People believed him, and why wouldn't they? He's an authority figure in this country, and he was lying. So was Senator Richard Blumenthal, who has spent years bringing shame to the state of Connecticut. He embarrassed himself even further with his mock certainty on this and many, many other occasions.
There are indictments in this president's future. They're coming. Whether they're after his presidency or during it, obviously the Department of Justice said cannot indict a sitting president.
Here we go. Indictments tomorrow, indictments yesterday, but never indictments today. All right. I think we've had enough of the Tucker for now. But it's
lie after lie after lie after lie.
Shamelessly so. But I just want to go ahead.
If you're a leftist tonight and you are not a delusional leftist, but you are a leftist who trusts MSNBC, you trust CNN, you trust Democratic congressmen who are going on these talking head shows and saying these types of things. What's going through your head tonight? Do you think to yourself, wow, okay, I don't like Trump. He's a buffoon, he's a racist, but my gosh, they've been lying to me. Or do you just move on to the... I'm not talking about the people that would get up and sing I Wish You a Mueller Christmas. I'm talking about just, regular lefty in Portland, not a part of Antifa, but can't stand the president and thinks that the president was colluding, with Russia before the 2016 election. And now you're finding out for 2 years you've been lied to. What's going through your head? Do you think that there are some honest lefties out there that are going to say to themselves, I don't know if I can trust these news organizations? Do you think that they'll lose any credibility? Or do you think it's just next, we got to find something else to get this president impeached?
No, I think it's we got to find something else. And I think this is the reaction once again. Our favorite clip of the woman screaming at the sky on Inauguration Day. They're back to that mode. They cannot accept this reality at all. And just to drive that home, this was a quote from the morning panel this morning. We're recording this on Saturday, March, the 23rd now, I guess?
Yes, 23rd.
This was one of the panelists that was convened on AM Joy. And they had a parade in there today. There had to be 20 different people in there to talk about this. And I actually appreciate Tara Dowdell, I guess is how you pronounce her last name. She was at the event that you and I met at in Rhode Island.
Oh, okay.
When we went up there to cover the Netroots conference, and she came
many moons ago.
Right, and had conversations with us, which I thought was cool. Most lefties don't want to do that. And
right.
She's usually pretty reasonable, but this is what she said this morning. To be very clear, this is messaging. The no collusion over and over, the repetition of that, then parroted throughout conservative media. What that is about is planting that in the psyche of the American public. I saw this and I'm like, oh my God, we do. We live in parallel universes. You had CNN, MSNBC, and I assume ABC, NBC, and CBS over and over again talking about collusion was real. Right. But according to Tara over there on MSNBC, it was conservative media. So I guess that encompasses Fox News and Rush Limbaugh, maybe?
Fox News, Breitbart, Daily Caller, and Talk Radio.
Yes. So they won out. They infiltrated the psyche of America versus all of the cable news networks. I don't think so. I find that really difficult to believe.
I still think that we're ignoring the big story here, and that's that Nancy Pelosi and Robert Mueller were influenced by Vladimir Putin. And that's the whole reason why this is going south and why there will be no impeachment. It's because the Russians got to them, Tracy.
It could be.
Let's get that theory out there.
Well, and one of the other things that they were going to try to float, I believe, watching Maddow last night, was that there was undue influence coming from the Justice Department over Mueller's investigation, saying that the Justice Department shut down certain avenues they wanted to explore. So in the letter that Barr sent over to Congress announcing all of this, which I'll put up on the screen for everybody to see, he specifically says that there was no influence whatsoever. He never shut down any avenue of inquiry that the special counsel wanted to take. And prior to Barr taking that job, you'll remember, Sessions had recused himself. Mm-hmm. And so our savior, Rod Rosenstein, was in there. Their savior, excuse me. And he didn't allow any of that. We can't possibly believe that Rosenstein would have shut down anything that Mueller wanted to investigate.
So I guess that's what the other spin they're going to try to throw out there. And Mueller will be on, the Sunday shows eventually. And the question will be asked, were you pressured?
Right.
By anyone to look the other way, to end the investigation early, to not indict people that you believe should have been indicted. And then it'll be interesting to see because, the president had been bad-mouthing the whole process. Will Mueller tell the truth? If he
been
wasn't
compromised, clearly.
Oh, yep, the Russians.
Well, and you'll remember, everybody seems to forget that on a weekly basis, all the alarms were being pulled that Trump's going to fire Mueller at any second. We had to have votes in the Senate to protect Bob Mueller. Make it impossible for the president to fire him. And that never came to pass, guys. This picture of Trump that you have in your head is so contradictory to reality. At a certain point, you would imagine they would have to wake up.
Well, go back to that lefty I was talking about in Portland right now. Will they wake up? I don't know. I think when you're so emotionally invested in this stuff, I don't know what it will take to wake you out of this. What will take to wake you?
Easy for you to say.
Oh my gosh, I'm running on no sleep. What will shake you out of this the state you're in, where you're the type of person who will on inauguration day hit the streets of Washington D.C., get down on your knees and scream at the top of your lungs, no. Who hurt her?
Show me on the doll where President Trump hurt you.
But I just don't understand it. I remember, listen, I think anyone who was politically active back in 2012 who was completely disgusted with how Obamacare went down, that election day, I was really hoping Mitt Romney was going to win, and I was not a huge Mitt Romney fan. No. When Mitt Romney lost, I moved on with my day and moved on with my life. I just cannot imagine what it's like to be wired like this, where it's like their lives are ruined. I never thought when Barack Obama got reelected, I'm going to leave the country. That sentence never left my face. I gotta move. I'm moving. Oh, you can't somehow make it through 4 years of not having your person in the White House, that you would even have that sentence fly out of your face. Stop being so obsessed with who's in the White House. Your life's going to be fine for the most part. They can make it a little bit more inconvenient for you. Obviously, Barack Obama did with Obamacare. And they can make it a little easier for you. Donald Trump, you magnificent bastard. But chances are you'll adapt. You'll survive. You'll make it through. My gosh, our democracy's at stake, Tracy.
Yes.
The other thing about this quickly that I want to bring up is, I'm always obsessed with the grift, Tracy.
Yeah.
And this has been a godsend to the grifters. This Mueller investigation, and now the report being released, and whoever thought that they were going to be wronged by this report, the fundraising emails. Cory Booker is already sending emails out fundraising off of this. The grifters, I'm telling you, it is simply amazing how quickly they can pounce on stuff like this. And the amount of money, I wish there would be a way that we could figure out how much money has been raised over the past 2 years by Republicans and Democrats off of Russian collusion and the Mueller investigation. And now you're going to have, I'm sure there are tons of emails in the coming weeks saying, listen, our democracy is at stake. We need the full report released, and we need to put pressure on Washington to release the entire report. Anything less is unacceptable. And to do that, to help save our democracy, won't you send me $3?
Just $3?
Just $3. Isn't our democracy worth giving up one caramel macchiato?
Is that how much those things cost? I thought they were way more than that.
Probably way more than that. But still, the grift, it is so amazing. The ways they'll come up with money. I MoveOn.org, I get an email, it feels like every other day from MoveOn. It'll be, oh, Alyssa Milano wrote me an email. Oh, isn't that nice? Oh, here's Rob Reiner. Oh, Jon Stewart. Oh, send us $3. Our democracy's at stake. Send us $5. Maybe 10. Don't you love your country? I'm telling you, Tracy, we need to get Scam PAC up. And we'll be up and up. Yeah, we'll be honest with you from the very beginning. Hi, this is Scam PAC. Send us $3 so we can build our beach house.
Because that will save America.
Right.
Yeah. You and I having nice vacation homes will do more for this country than any elected politician has ever done.
That's right. Isn't your democracy worth that? I'm Fingers Malloy, and I approve this message. All right. Well, that's the Mueller investigation.
Yes.
Now, and I bring up Scam PAC. We're going a little bit out of order, but I see that you have the Bernie bro story up. And this plays right into Scam PAC.
It is a Scam PAC.
It is a
legit
PAC.
Scam PAC. So we have to give a shout out to one of our favorite listeners, Miss Grumpy Seamstress, who sent this to us on Twitter. It's from The Blaze. The headline is, an 80-year-old man raises over $250,000 for Bernie and Beto. One of these days I'll get that right. What he actually did with the money is rather interesting. So, an 80-year-old John Pierre DuPont of California successfully raised money for Democratic presidential candidates Bernie Sanders and Beto O'Rourke, but none of the money actually went to either candidate. Instead, DuPont allegedly spent the money on his rent as well as the purchase of a Mercedes-Benz. I love this guy. First of all, I'm shocked. There's an 80-year-old that was able to set up multiple websites.
Wow.
So he took that learn to code stuff that the media pushed a couple of years ago very seriously. He's like, oh, okay. Over there at BuzzFeed, they're telling me to learn to code. I should get on that. So, he was arrested on Tuesday for reportedly setting up fake websites and political action committees to raise money for Sanders and O'Rourke. Federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York, which is now the new home of all hope for the diehards on Trump getting indicted ever, charged DuPont with wire fraud as well as identity theft after he fraudulently raised more than $250,000 for the Democrat candidates as well as other Democratic candidates and causes. So according to the complaint, he set up at least a dozen websites and 3 PACs to collect the money in the Democrats' names. So I love this. That guy is impressive as hell. How many 80-year-olds know how to do anything on the internet?
But
they're like, can I get the Cricket flip phone?
Right. Cricket.
The one with the big icons. Yeah, it's the jitterbug.
But he got greedy.
Oh, he did. But he's been doing it since 2015, and he just got popped now.
This is what you do. You buy your Mercedes, you pay your rent. The rent, and I'm no lawyer, so don't follow my advice here when you're setting up your own Scam PAC. But it would seem to me that the Mercedes and the rent for your home, you have a home office for your PAC. So write that off. Write off the Mercedes. Do some campaign work, and then I've seen other people do this where they will raise money and then film one ad and throw it out there, and the ad will look like it was filmed on an original Droid cell phone.
Yeah.
Put no money into it at all, and then they're like, oh well, it took a lot of money and prep to come up with this ad. $250,000.
Yeah. All you have to do is submit invoices.
Right.
You set up a production company that's an LLC.
Yeah. You go to you go through all the trouble of how many websites did he put together? Would you say
12?
12? You can't figure out a way to,
be a little bit more discreet.
Yeah, I was going to say launder, but launder's not the correct term. Just figure out a way around all this stuff and keep most of the money. I mean, what? So buy some Facebook ads. Buy some ads on MySpace. And then pocket most of the dough. Yeah. Oh, so say you spend 50,000, you raise 250 grand, you spend 50,000 on stupid inspirational fake ads for Bobby O'Rourke where he's lifting weights, or come up with an ad for Bernie where two women don't rush the stage and rip the mic out of his hands. And then you're good to go. Don't pocket all the coin. Come on, man. Oh, it's disturbing to me that this. Oh, now what's going to happen? They're going to throw this 80-year-old man in jail. Mm-hmm. The government's going to confiscate his Mercedes and sell it for pennies on the dollar. Man, at some point, buyer beware. If you're getting emails, fundraising emails from people you don't know, I brought this up several times, but being that we're now on YouTube and we're trying to grow our YouTube presence, and once again, please check us out over at YouTube and on BitChute. I brought this up before. I'll bring it up again. Because of what we do, my email address has been not by me. It's been spread over multiple platforms, and it's found its way into campaigns and think tanks that I never sent them my email address, and the emails I get, it's unreal, and it's some of it is so ridiculous. Like, send me $10 so we can draft Laura Ingraham to run for Senate. It's you know what? Buyer beware at that point. If you're going to send some group $10. So, they're going to try to draft Laura Ingraham or Sheriff Joe or Sheriff Clark to run for the Senate. I don't feel sorry for you, man. If you sent the money in for that, then that person deserves a Mercedes for suckering you out of your bank. So, but they're going to throw this guy in jail, and for what?
And we all get to pay for that.
Right. Well, good for him. Now what we need to do is find out what he did wrong and make sure when we start Scam PAC that we don't repeat his mistakes.
Right. I think as long as we're flat out honest about what we're doing, we back no candidates, no parties. We're not getting involved in any elections whatsoever.
Right.
We just talk politics, and we think you should give us money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll even share the blueprints of our beach houses that we plan to build.
It's only fair.
Yeah.
We're nothing but transparent.
And we'll have open houses where people can come watch us do the podcast live from the back veranda of my beach house, at least. And my saltwater pool, because sometimes I don't want to walk all the way to the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we'll have to make sure we don't make those mistakes. Now, I don't know if you want to go back to there's been this talk of eliminating the Electoral College, as if all they're going to have to do is pass a bill and it'll be gone, as if that's how you change the Constitution. But so you had a piece. I don't know how much you wanted to get into this or not.
Well, I'd like to raise it because I've seen, like you just said, common sense says, well, you can't do this without a constitutional amendment. But Democrats don't like to play by the rules, and we know they don't give a damn about the Constitution. So they're not going to go for a constitutional amendment. They've already got something in the works called the National Popular Vote Movement. So what this is they're trying to get a bunch of states to sign on to this agreement. So you can go to nationalpopularvote.com and read all about this. So what they want is they need to get a total of, they're looking for a certain number of electoral votes. It looks like 200 electoral votes, maybe more than that. I'll have to do math. Fingers, can you do math for me? You're a boy.
I can't see that. Let me get
my calculator. Sorry. So they've got right now 13 states have agreed to be part of this PAC. pact, which doesn't go into effect until they have enough states to make up 270 electoral votes, which makes sense because that's what you need to win.
Right.
So until they get enough people, enough states on board to total up to 270, this isn't in effect. But more and more states have signed on to this. So now they're saying they've got 13 right now that are in on this. But it's not triggered until they hit that number. So people were freaking out this past week about Colorado signing on to this deal and thinking like, oh, Colorado's now tied all their votes to the popular vote, which is not the case. Until they hit that threshold, Colorado's votes will go the way that they go in the Electoral College. They're not tied to the popular vote.
Okay.
So everybody can calm down about that. All the bill says is when they've hit that threshold as prescribed in this national popular vote thing, then they will go whichever way the popular vote goes. All of Colorado's votes will go that way. But I don't think they've thought this all the way through, which shouldn't surprise anybody.
Right.
Here's what happens if these states do this. And you hit 207, you get the 270. So basically they need California to get on board and New York and some of the bigger states, or they can pick off little states. But say this happens, it changes the incentives now for Republicans that live in states like California and New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and, all these states that have a decent sized population but are just overwhelmed with blue. Why would you vote as a Republican in California right now in a presidential election? Why bother? They always talk about Hillary won the popular vote. She won by about 4 million votes. Almost all of that is from California.
Yeah.
Why would you go to the polls and deal with that crap on election day? It's not going to matter. There's no way that those states' electoral votes are going to Trump. So why bother? So it's the same up the entire West Coast and most of the East Coast, at least the Northeast Coast. But now, if those states are going to go whichever way the popular vote goes, now you've got a reason. Now you can laugh your butt off on the way to go vote for Trump in California in 2020 thinking, hey, my vote may not count in California, but it'll count overall, and then I'm going to steal all the left's votes back from them. Honestly.
Right.
I can understand not going and dealing with it in a state that's not nowhere close. But now they're going to turn out because they have a reason to. And just imagine that Schadenfreude, if he wins the popular vote, say they get enough states on board in this pact to make this happen, and then you get everybody turning out. Because now it's game on, and Trump will go and he will campaign in California, and he'll campaign in New York, and try to turn out some of those rural areas where you got a lot of pockets of red. If you look at the electoral map, county by county, there's way more red than there's blue.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
now those people are all incentivized to come out and vote, because that would just be amazing if he just swept it. Can you imagine electoral wipeout? Sorry, Joe Biden got 3 electoral votes. Thank you, Hawaii.
Well, and that's the big story, that Joe Biden, it looks like he's going to announce. I think he's the biggest threat, don't you? Or do you think? I don't think he'll ever get the nomination because I don't think that it's sounding more and more like the far left base of the Democratic Party, the ones who will be voting in these primaries. Many of them do not want a white male at the top of the ticket.
Right.
Under any circumstances.
Well, that's why they floated that trial balloon this week, his camp, that he's been talking to Stacey Abrams. Because that's what we need. One more statewide loser on the ticket, on the Democrat ticket. He's talked to Stacey Abrams about potentially being his running mate. So there's some thinking that he could announce that early. There's no rule that says you can't announce who your running mate's going to be right out of the gate. So maybe he can get momentum off of that. But honestly,
how desperate is that?
It's really desperate.
But
this is the game they've set up.
Well, that, and this goes back to what we've talked about previously, where there are going to be so many people running on the Democratic side that they are trying to think of any way possible to stick out from the crowd and to announce within moments of you saying that you're running for president that, oh, by the way, I already have my running mate.
Right.
You want to know who it's going to be. Boy, it sounds incredibly desperate, but I guess I can understand if you've there are two things that you can do at this point if you're running for president, and that's either make an announcement like that to stick out from the crowd, or you have to continue to move further and further to the left. And when you've got presidential candidates doing town halls or interviews talking about how they took their mom to see a porno.
Oh,
you didn't hear about this?
Is this Hickenlooper?
Yeah.
Okay. I just heard some scuttlebutt about things that he wrote about in his autobiography, is it?
Yeah, I believe it was Hickenlooper.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know what the percentage of primary voters on the Democratic side would find that impressive and make them more likely to vote for him, but that's where we are in 2019, going into 2020 is it's candidates freely admitting and getting on national TV saying that they took their mother to see an X-rated movie. That's not awkward.
No.
My father is 80 years old, and when I visit him, he'll turn on HBO, and if there is any kind of sexual activity going on the television.
John Hickenlooper took his presidential campaign to Atlanta tonight for a town hall meeting on CNN. Members of the audience had a lot of questions touching on the economy, recreational marijuana, student loan debt, healthcare, climate change, you name it.
And that time he took his mom to see an X-rated movie.
Violence,
This is what happens when websites just start playing videos without your consent. I feel violated by that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, my point is, the idea that if there's a nude scene on TV, I'm like, oh my God, change the channel. I'm next to my father. It's just weird. And this cat's like, oh, hey, took my mom to see Debbie Does Dallas.
No, Deep Throat. It says this is the Huffington Post. The headline is John Hickenlooper reveals why he once took his mom to see an X-rated movie. The Democratic presidential hopeful admitted he was, quote, humiliated by the mother-son trip to watch Deep Throat. What did they think that was going to be about? Oops.
Why would you admit that? Why would that even come up?
To get attention. I would assume, right? It's a crowded field. Nobody's paying attention to Mr. Hickenlooper. Everybody's like, what's a Hickenlooper? It sounds like some weird disease.
Yeah, it sounds like
swine flu.
Yeah, you get removed at the dermatologist.
Right. Oh, my God. Oh, okay. So I guess they accidentally went to... Oops.
Oh, come on.
I feel like that's stolen from somebody else's life story. He's pulling a Biden.
Little Green Footballs?
Yeah.
What was that name? Oh,
man.
What was the name? Debbie Does Dallas?
No, Deep Throat.
Deep Throat. Okay. Well, they think it was a Watergate film.
No, this is before Watergate.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know when it came out.
No, because they're saying this happened in 1972. I mean, it could have been around the time that Watergate was breaking, but... Oh, my God. Wow. You just admitted to everybody that you're a stone-cold moron.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, Tracy.
Yes.
We're over an hour. We're about an hour and 10 minutes in.
I think that we're good for this week, don't you?
I think so too. Remember, you can catch the Enough Already podcast on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Tune, and iTunes. And it's really important if you dig the show, and you want to help us out, go to iTunes and leave us a review. It does wonders for us to spread the word regarding the podcast. Gets it in front of more people. If you preferably a 5-star review, and actually write a review, that would really help us out. And now, of course, you can catch the Enough Already podcast on Stitcher and YouTube, and it's actually a video. It's not just a slide and then us putting the podcast underneath the slide for an hour and 10 minutes. It's our smiling faces, and Tracy's incorporating video clips and tweets and written copy that we're reading right on the air. So check that out over at BitChute and YouTube, and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Final thoughts, Tracy?
Well, I was going to tell everybody to go check out the Facebook page, because now you're a meme-making master over there.
Oh, yeah. I think it's the second meme I've ever made in my life, and there's I don't know, at some point there's 200 or 300 shares on this thing right now, the last time I checked. The whole Mueller thing reminded me of the Geraldo Al Capone's vault.
Yes.
And I know that dates me, and anyone under 40, maybe even 45, has to Google Al Capone's vault and Geraldo. But they did this 2-hour special where they had found what they believed to be Al Capone's vault that hadn't been opened in years, and they had to dig through dig underground and get through a whole bunch of walls, and Geraldo led you through this whole journey, and then they opened it up and there was nothing in it. And he just kind of duck walked off the stage left, and that was the end, and people mocked Geraldo for years for that. And that's what it reminded me of, was hey, 2 years of this, there's been anticipation, there's been speculation, what are we going to find out? And then
we just found out that they're really good at blowing millions of dollars.
Yeah. I hate the term nothing burger. That seems to be thrown around like crazy. I know you're not a big fan of it either, but it was Al Capone's fault all over again. So yeah, check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/Enough Already podcast. And then of course you can also catch our website, EnoughAlready.us. Well, that's it for this week. She's Tracy. I'm Fingers. We'll be back next week with an all-new Enough Already.